In conversation with Kirsten Schuder. Kirsten Schuder is an international award-winning author, a first publishing venture with a co-author and an award based on their book Farming Industrial Hemp, Not Your Daddy's Tobacco, only 3 months after publication. Their book has been influential in the establishment and legalization of America's newest agricultural crop. A science fantasy book, Inside Dweller Genesis, was published in September 2023 and is widely available. Kristen has published hundreds of articles and blog posts as a writer and journalist and has edited thousands more as an expert mental health editor, including the Mammoth WikiHow. Through Epes Literary Management, she manages the boutique literary agency and represents best-selling authors. Finally, she writes whatever the heck she wants in Kirsten's short attention span on media. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my joy, pleasure, and excitement to offer the show again, Kristen Schuder. How are you doing, Kristen?
I'm good, thanks. Just hanging out here with my crazy cat. You might hear her in the background. There's no making her be quiet, so
Nice one. It's so lovely, really, to reconnect again after, I think, a month, yeah, several months actually. We last interviewed, but lovely to be back again and P English literature. Thanks for joining again.
thank you for having me. I always enjoy our interviews.
Yeah, yeah. So, Kirsty, I want to first say congratulations on your new release in the name of 12 Hours, whose description page reads quite captivatingly to me on Amazon. And, knowing that this is a short story book based on a true story, I would like you to tell us more about it and how the book came to be.
Well, actually, my husband, he died in September.
Mm,
He had shared with me his experiences as a correctional officer in a New England prison. And he worked there for a few years. And during that time, he experienced a riot. And this just wasn't like any short-lived skirmish between the officers and the inmates. The the Let's see, the warden at the time had he had like nine PhDs,
mm,
but he wasn't like very smart about running the prison. And he was at dinner at the mayor's house that night that the
mm,
riots broke out. So he decided just to make my husband and his fellow officer
mm,
wait while he had dinner with the mayor. He was too busy to bring the keys. He was the only one who could bring the keys to get them out of there.
wow,
And my husband and his fellow officer really had to fight 12 hours to survive. And
wow,
a little bit about prison culture. If you can kill an officer on duty, you will be king of the prison and get lots of benefits and followers and
mm,
everything else. So they're basically they were the prize, and they had to fight through that. So through this very real experience, I actually incorporated a short scene into my first novel, Inside Dweller, which came out last year.
mm,
And this is an extension just to give readers of what really happened, what the full story is. Eventually, I think this will be like a full novel of all of his
wow.
experiences because he's been telling me these memories for years. And
Mm,
um, also, he's my husband is a warrior. He is a warrior, and he is the strongest person and the best person I ever met in my life.
mm,
He made such a big difference in my life. And
wow.
this was the way that I could really honor him. So
Oh, wow. I know we talked about it over the email, and I'm so sorry, really sorry to get to know about the loss of your husband.
thank
Yeah.
you. I'll have ways for people to get the story for free. So
Oh, interesting. Thank you. And for the sake of readers who haven't read the book yet, and of course without giving much information away, do we have a sneak of what you'd expect in terms of themes and subject lines picking up 12 hours? And also, how did you come up with the title name, 12 hours?
I was actually bouncing back and forth. What you asked about the title, so I'll explain that first.
Mm,
Um, I was bouncing back and forth between that and the boxing gloves. And I was thinking of the boxing gloves at first because, it just kind of sounds a little bit more literary, I guess.
mm,
But 12 hours is basically the whole center of like what happened, why they had to, fight for 12 hours. And
wow,
that's what it is. It's a fight for survival for 12 hours. So, that's
wow.
why I came up with the title. And well, it's a non-stop action story with a bit of Jack Gallagher, who is actually a character in um,
Mm,
Inside Dweller. I'm not ashamed to admit that I based Jack Gallagher on my husband. My
wow.
husband just kind of served as a character prototype. And he so basically the story is, just how what he was going through blow by blow to
Mm,
survive that situation. And like I said, it's an extension of something that was inside Dweller.
wow.
So it's, but basically, it's the, like more realer version. Of course, like, I put like artistic spins on it and,
Mm,
integrated some backstory and with, how he could, like what type of person he is, how could he survive 12 hours? Because
mm,
that's always fascinated me. Um, if I were trapped in a prison, even with training, I'm not sure if I would survive that long against
mm.
people. It just showed even though he died too early, at 59 years old, my
Wow.
husband fought every step of the way to make sure that he could have as many hours and minutes as he could with,
Mm.
his family. He's my dear best friend. So
Wow.
yeah, so that's basically a taste of what readers can expect. It's just a, non-stop action-packed story. So,
Oh, that sounds like we're gonna have to expect a bit of an emotional read as well. Thank you. Thank you for
mhm.
sharing. And Kirsten, previously we talked about your novel, Inside Dweller series, I think several months ago or even a year ago by now. And I would still like to ask you, what is the connection between 12 hours and your novel, Inside Dweller Genesis? Is there any connection whatsoever?
Oh yes. I believe I dipped into this a bit, so let me explain this more in detail. So, Inside Dweller, in the novel, this scene actually occurs because the, the Miranda, my main
Mm,
character, and her psychologist, Dr. Jack Gallagher, go on a meditative journey with the help of a friend. And
mm,
this is the scene where Dr. Jack Gallagher um, experiences and meets the cause of
yeah,
what Miranda is experiencing. I don't want to give away too much
yeah.
because it, the whole thing is kind of it has a lot of twists and turns. And I don't want to
Mm,
spoil any for anybody.
yeah,
So they so this so 12 hours
yeah.
was written as a short story, maybe sometime after Inside Dweller. And it was also included in another book,
Mm.
the Rise of Zombie Cat,
Oh,
and
wow.
other real stories. Yeah. So real fiction, I call it real fiction because it's
Oh, wow.
realistic, but the stories are kind of like, made up. The characters are different and maybe the scenarios are a little different. So it's kind of,
Mm,
if you like a little grit, with your fiction, then you might enjoy The Rise of Zombie Cat.
Oh, wow.
So it was included at the end of there, again, to help readers find Inside Dweller. Uh, but and that's recently been, kind of updated and stuff, so that if
Mm,
you enjoy those stories too, uh, readers can have that, and the short story will be at the end of that. Uh, but the short story itself was always kind of just an extension of Inside Dweller, just to give readers a little bit more about understanding what that whole experience was like. So,
Oh, wow. That's a lot in that actually to capture. That's quite heavy, that's quite deep. Looks like you something you love to chew and take some water to digest it in there. Quite
mhm.
amazing, really. And I love your description of this. Thank you so much for mentioning and letting us know the connection between 12 hours and Inside Dweller Genesis. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Now, I want to move a bit because as a novelist yourself, I would like to ask you, because one of the most interesting things to me as a writer is to listen to readers' feedbacks. You may want to agree with me that one of the things that make literature to be complex in its entirety is the fact that it can be interpreted in different ways by different readers based on their opinion, actually. And sometimes the readers might get the message intended by the author. Sometimes they might be close to getting it. Sometimes they might be far from getting it. Sometimes they might even entirely mix the entire message. You know, and as interestingly fun as they sound, I would like to ask you, how do you feel when readers interpret your works differently than you intended? How does that make you feel?
Oh, well, I'm always pleased when anyone takes the time to interpret the work in the first place. Now, as a writer, something that I love to do, and
Mm,
something that's always seemed to come quite naturally,
yeah.
is, integrating things like, foreshadowing and symbolism and
Mm,
all these things, and just ironic statements and things like that. I find that that's the most fun
mm,
part of writing, and the writing process.
wow.
So, if anybody takes the time to interpret it, or if they see something in the work that they feel is, and they interpret it in a different way, or that's great to me, because that means that they're fully engaged,
Yeah.
and they're taking the time to do that. And no one, what I found is no one person's interpretation is going to be exactly the same
Yeah.
as someone else's, because we all have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I'm sure you find that with their poetry. We they'll, because we all have our worldview and our own unique experiences. And
Mm,
so they might see something that I never saw, and I found that before.
mm,
But there are other things in there that I put that were kind of intentional, and I wanted to see if people would see that in either, like 12 hours is pretty straightforward. It's just, it's not more literary, but I tried to make Inside Dweller, just have those little Easter eggs for English students, so to say, so that, if you enjoy looking for those things,
mm,
it's totally in there. And there are things that I did intentionally put in there, like a paraphrasing, a three-word paraphrasing of
oh.
Shakespeare. And no one has said, "Oh, I like that from Shakespeare that you included that." And no one's ever said that. So the things that I thought I put in there that were really cool, like pretty much no one picks up on it. And others, they, and also others, like when they have interpretations, I'm always
Mm,
happy to hear it because it just they see what they pick up because it reflects them,
yeah,
and then they see it, and I always enjoy hearing it. So it doesn't make me feel anything except happy.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very fun experience, even to have, as a writer, it's always fun when this person interprets the works differently. And like you mentioned, we all have different ways of interpreting what we've read. I can read a book, and another person reads same book, and the way I will interpret it to me is quite different from the way someone else is going to interpret it, and quite different from the way other person is going to interpret. But we might have a common idea. Okay, this is what went through in the novel. This is what the character goes through in the novel. But then our interpretation always differ. We tend to interpret works based on our own, like you mentioned, worldview, personal experiences, how the book relates to us and our experiences in the past, etc. So part of the things the readers take in consideration, and that's why it makes for different interpretation, different feedbacks that sometimes, gets me smiling like, oh wow, really? I never intended that way, but it's quite nice. You mentioned that. Thank you. I mean, it's beautiful. You mentioned this. Oh, really? That sometimes can even be funny to the author, like, oh, I never knew that was included. But that's amazing you
mhm.
cite that. I think that's one of the big things that make literature to be quite complex and beautiful in its entirety. The diverse sort of interpretation that it gets to have and, experience after the works have been out and published, made to the public. Yeah.
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd also like to ask you, Kirsten, do you have any plan to expand on this short story in the future? Do you?
Oh yes. Actually, Inside Dweller and the story are like seeds. I see them as seeds because there's a second and third book, possibly a fourth book plans for Inside Dweller
Wow.
for 12 hours. Specifically, it's basically Jack Gallagher, and in his earlier life as a young adult,
Mm,
I do plan on putting out a novel about his experiences in the New England system. And I have like lofty aspirations for that one. It's sort of
wow.
it's because some of the stuff that went on was just so funny because my husband's a funny guy,
Oh,
and
wow.
and other things. It could, I think, taking on the uh the prison system in the country,
Mm,
it could be an exciting opportunity to just, make a commentary about how things could be better
mm,
in the prison system. And maybe uh how conditions can be improved,
mm,
but we'll have to see what that brings. Of course, the story would be from the point of view of the correction officer, and that's
wow.
very different from, how a person who's incarcerated would
Yeah.
feel being in that system. So, it's probably not going to be a balanced look because it is based on Jack Gallagher's experience.
Wow.
But I think it will help people appreciate the aspect of, what it's really like to be a survivor. Because that was my husband. He was,
Mm,
I know it's ironic, always practicing my irony, but my husband is passed now, but he was definitely a survivor because for every moment of life, he always fought for it. He had many challenges,
mm,
and he was a fighter. So, it all goes back to Inside Dweller because it's like, wow, how because like that's the thing you don't get in American films and stories
mm,
sometimes. They kind of gloss over what makes a hero a hero.
mm,
And since my husband was my hero, I spent 30 years with the man studying what constitutes a hero
Wow.
because he was a hero to me. And so you'll find a lot of that expanded upon what makes a person a hero, or, you know, someone who I guess is worth, uh, you know, admiration or worthy of, you know, just holding up, you know, like seeing the standards that he lives out,
Mm,
and then, you know, trying to do better yourself. You
mm,
know, the man always challenged me to be my best self at all
mm,
times. So for that, I'll always be grateful to him.
mm.
And I believe that 12 Hours was really the story that shows, like, you know, what a survivor he is and
Wow.
was. And it's it's definitely something to live up to.
Mm.
I don't know how he pulled out the strength that he did to survive something so physically demanding.
Wow.
Um, but he did, and that's the reason why I had a whole life with him. It's the reason why I have two beautiful children.
Wow.
So, yeah, so there it is.
Oh, wow. Again, I mean, talking about him, it's quite emotional to me, yeah, and it's quite sad to get to know about, his demise. And again, I think this should be dedicated fully to him for
Thank you.
sharing and even coming up today to talk about, your book. It's quite courageous and quite amazing to me. Well, commendable. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And this might be like a fast question, knowing that you have just recently released a book. But then I still like to ask you, apart from 12 hours, do you have any other works you're currently working on?
Okay, so I covered this a little bit. So yeah, basically
Yeah.
um everything that I plan on writing kind of originates with Inside Dweller in some way, because the Jack Gallagher character is kind of the center of any additional stories that I plan on writing.
Mm,
There's his experiences in the prison, which will be a direct extension of 12 Hours. So if, readers want a taste of what that book is going to be like, 12 Hours is actually like the most serious part of that
mm.
story, but there's a lot of hijinks and mayhem that he caused in the prison while you work there that are actually very funny. And because he was a born and bred New Yorker, born and
Wow.
raised in the Bronx slash Yonkers area. So he was kind of, hardened and toughened from the streets. And
Mm,
you see that also in 12 Hours. And so a lot of the things that he went through were just kind of amusing there in New England,
wow.
where people tend to be a little bit more laid back, I guess. And there was the mismatch kind of created a lot of funny moments. So
Wow.
12 Hours will probably be, or like the extension of 12 Hours will probably be like, one of the funniest stories that I'm
Wow.
able to write. Oh, basically all because of, just the way he was. And I actually spent a lot of hours laughing with him over the things that happened at the prison. And then there was so then there's also going to be an extension of Jack Gallagher and
Oh,
the relationship that he built with his wife. And
wow.
because, the wife is introduced in Inside Dweller, but
Oh,
there's a lot of very interesting, um, there's a lot of very interesting family dynamics. So that's going to be sort of like a documentation
wow.
of a family situation with Jack Gallagher's wife that was sort of hinted at in Inside Dweller, but the wife's whole situation with her family is just so messed up and
Mm,
probably unfathomable to a lot of people. and she will definitely be just hold on a second.
Yeah.
Where uh there we go. It's the only way to get her to be quiet. It's
Oh,
pick her
is
up.
it he or she? It's beautiful.
It's a she.
Sh-
She's a
sh-
she. This is my mouthy southerner.
Oh wow, so beautiful. Actually, raise it, please. Could you raise it again? Let me see what.
Here we go.
Oh, very big. Oh, so
Yeah, she's got
cute.
a tortoise shell fur
Wow,
color.
I love her hair, the puffy
Yeah, thank you.
look.
All right,
Oh
so maybe
wow.
she'll be quiet for the rest of the time. I'm sorry.
She has
I can't
come to
control this
interrupt.
cat.
She has come to interrupt your video. She said she wanted to get featured in an interview.
I guess so.
She
She's
was
very
like,
ambitious.
"Oh, she was like, how dare you put me aside? I want to talk about the book too."
Yeah, there we go. I actually have a photo of her on
Oh,
top of a stack of books. And I actually take this photo and I upload it into classrooms where I
mm,
teach students reading.
yeah.
And she's my like classroom mascot because she's sitting on top of a bunch of books. So she definitely has a very funny personality. So
Oh
I think
wow.
she'll be fine for the rest of the time now.
She's an attention grabber. She was like, I wanted to get featured too on the show, please.
Right. Oh my goodness. So
Oh,
I've
that
got her
was quite
now.
fun.
She's purring. So I think she'll be quiet the rest of the time. So please remind me where we were. Oh, I was explaining what my future plans are. So
Yeah.
basically, Jack Gallagher's like relationship with her wife will be fully explored. There's
Mm,
and this the story is definitely going to be have a lot of features that are not going to be like Inside Dweller. The supernatural aspects are going to be a bit less, emphasized, but and the family relationships and what
mm.
happens between people are going to be more emphasized, and but it's just going to be really twisted because
Wow.
Jack Gallagher's wife's family is quite twisted.
Yeah.
And so that will be explored fully. And then I also have like another story idea in mind.
Yeah.
There's a special book at the end that is
Oh.
introduced in Inside Dweller. And the story of how that book came about and it got into Dr. O'Connor's possession
Uh,
will be explored as well. So yeah, it's like I see Inside Dweller and 12 Hours as sort of the seed for everything because it introduces all the characters that readers have strongly they told me they're strongly connected to all the characters. And
mm,
they will be seeing much more of Dr. Jack Gallagher in the future. Miranda will definitely have a 3 or 4 more book run, and and hopefully it'll be stuff that people enjoy reading. So
That's actually quite amazing, really. I love your take on that. I love your
thank you.
extensive discussion and your, elaboration of this section. Sounds quite fun to me. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, before we wrap up for today, is there anything particularly that you'd love to share with the viewers about your books that we did not mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know? Is there anything
Um No, I think we covered
covered a
everything very
lot?
thoroughly. The only thing left is to let people know how to get the book for free.
Yeah,
It's just an ebook form right now. It's on Amazon.com, and you can find, if you do a search under 12 hours Kirsten Schuder, you will find it there. But also, there is another link that I can share with viewers right now.
yeah.
And that is Kirsten, like KirstenSchuder.
Mm,
And it's gr8.com. And that's where viewers will be able to get 12 hours for free.
Oh,
So,
interesting. I think I'm gonna have to attach that link in the description part of the video. Yeah, I'd like you
okay.
to. You may also share with me after the interview so I can add and save to add it. Yeah. And I left a
Okay.
link in the description part of the interview where interested viewers can get a copy of the book on
Mhm.
Amazon, and also the link that Kirsten just mentioned in the description as well, where they can get it for free. I also left link to Kirsten's social media pages for possible followings.
My website, kirstenschuder.com. I have someone working on it right now.
Yeah.
You can also find information on there as well. So it's same thing, KirstenSchuder dot com. And that,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
gonna include a link to that as well. Yeah,
Okay.
everywhere people
Yeah,
can get
but
to
if
know
you
about
don't
you.
see anything happening, just try back because it will be up really soon.
Okay.
So, and then also with the the one with the eight in it that I said before,
Yeah.
uh just give me a bit of time. I will send it to you.
Yeah, no
But
problem.
if you sign up, I promise I will get that to you for free. Okay.
Thank you so much. I love your energy and I love your responses today. Is really this is quite amazing, quite lovely, and very great. We're able to connect again and have a lovely conversation into your new book, 12 Hours. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Well, thank you again for having me, Peter. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah. Thank
Maybe
you.
we'll be able to see each other again soon.
Absolutely.